I don't know if you guys have heard, speaking of Spider-Man, this is actually a wicked segue. Speaking of Spider-Man, I don't know if you've heard about this, but Sony has been canceling live service games like there's no tomorrow, like crazy. And I actually really couldn't find like a good, just like under hour long video on this. But I found one from Gaming Bolt, and it says, "Dear Sony PlayStation, what the hell is going on?" And I'm assuming this is about the live service games because I've seen the God of War spin-off in the description here. But I do have an article after this that that kind of goes deeper into this. And yeah, we were just talking about the snow in Texas, and I was saying Florida icebergs, but yeah, it's been crazy. It's incredibly cold. It's -20, feels like -32 degrees Celsius right now. I had to work out in the garage this morning. I'm freezing my ass off in here. I got a blanket on. I never wear blankets. And anyway, let's check this video out and see what's been canceled. And I have some more information too if they don't cover it.
The PS5 has sold at roughly the same pace as its incredibly successful predecessor. And that, of course, is ultimately what Sony is going to care about.
But it ain't no PS2.
Above most other things. But other than that one admittedly crucial metric for success, this generation of console gaming has been something of a mess from the PlayStation perspective. Over the course of the last few years, Sony has endured several public failures, made a string of bad decisions, been caught in several controversies, and all around sparked the ire of its audience way more than it
I feel like just like the gaming landscape at this point, everyone's involved in controversies at this point. Like you look at PlayStation, you got Concord. You look at Microsoft, you got the Activision acquisition. You look at Steam, they're constantly having lawsuits. Like what company has not had Ubisoft with Ubisoft Connect and all of their games? Fortnite sued Apple. All of them have controversy.
It has over the course of the PS4 generation. Where the PS4 was a golden age for PlayStation on par with the PS2 days, and in some ways even exceeding those great heights, the PS5 years have been way more stop-start. PlayStation continues to be successful, that much is undisputable given the impressive sales that the platform and its games continue to enjoy. And the money that Sony rakes in, even if it would like to be raking...
By the way, I hope he gets into this, but Sony and Xbox are vastly different companies now. Vastly, for so many reasons.
And more, as is ever the way of profit-driven businesses. But though sheer momentum, undeniable good hardware, and solid software support from the industry at large have ensured that the PS5 doesn't stumble in any significant way, Sony itself can't help but keep tripping over it.
I truly believe that the reason why Sony has done so well is because of their model of releasing really good first-party games, waiting a year and then releasing them on PC is just a really good model. It increases your sales of your hardware, and then your game can sell better later, but it still pushes people to play on that.
Itself.
Whereas Xbox at this point is just focused on being a publisher, essentially.
Most recent in its long and ever-growing list of debacles is another pair of project cancellations.
Yeah, these are huge.
First reported by Bloomberg's Jason Schreier, Sony has canceled SIE Bend Studios' live service open-world title, as well as the mystery project that Bluepoint Games had been working on in the years since the launch of the Demon's Souls remake. Worse still, that project was, of all things, a live service God of War spin-off. There's obviously a lot to unpack here, so let's take it studio.
This is a stupid question. This is a stupid question, and I hope someone knows the answer. Is there a live service melee combat game? And I'm not talking like Super Smash Brothers or something like that. I'm talking about something with seasons, with battle pass. Is this an AI voice? I don't know. I was actually just thinking the same thing. I have no idea. I was literally trying to figure that out in my head while I was thinking about this. It's hilarious you said that. Yeah. Is the For Honor? I guess that's Chivalry. But nothing big, right? Like, when I think of live service games, you have shooters. That's like number one. You have like MOBAs. You have like your League of Legends, things like that. We now have hero shooters, which I'll just group into the shooters. I feel like, and then you have like your mobile style games, but like it's mostly shooters. Yeah, we have a good point there.
By studio, starting with Bend. The developer of Days Gone has endured.
Hold up. I'm curious. So, Elden Ring is releasing that like co-op Nightshade. Is that right? That mode coming out. The beta test is in February. I wonder if that's going to be a live service game.
A torrent of bad luck in the wake of Days Gone's 2019 release. After the game failed to spark the sort of widespread critical acclaim that Sony clearly cherishes, a Days Gone sequel pitch was turned down, despite the first game's solid sales, with reports suggesting that the studio would be put to work on an unannounced Uncharted project. That project, too, was eventually scrapped. And in 2021, it was finally revealed that Bend had started working on a new open-world IP that would be utilizing a lot of the tech that the studio had built up with Days Gone. Now, that project has also been canceled in what seems like the cruelest...
I do think there is room for a zombies live service. Like Call of Duty has their zombies live service model, sure, but I mean like an open world, almost like MMO zombies style game. I think it can be done, and I think it could be done really, really well. And I don't really think that there's anything like that.
Possible twist for Bend. Bluepoint's situation, however, seems even more egregious somehow, and perfectly indicative of how...
And I think a good example of that is Modern Warfare Zombies. Modern Warfare Zombies almost did that, like an open world zombies looter shooter, but they just fell short, in my opinion.
Disastrous Sony's decision-making has been. So let's break this down. After working with the studio on 2 acclaimed single-player remakes in the form of Shadow of the Colossus, Sony decided to acquire Bluepoint, following which it decided that 1, the best path forward for Bluepoint, a single-player studio, was to work on a live service game.
That's what they did with
2,
a lot of things.
That live service game should be a spin-off, which sounds like an awful idea no matter how you look at it.
We're going to see more and more and more and more and more of this. Even though they're canceling all of these, we're going to see more attempts at live service games on established IPs because it's too risky to do them on new IPs. Concord, complete failure. Marvel Rivals, complete success. Established IP versus new IP. Also, the way the game was designed, but that's a side point.
And 3, that they should wait until 2025 to finally cancel the project. Sony has assured that Bluepoint and Bend aren't going to be shut down as a result of these project closures, which is the silver lining here, surely. But that doesn't mean there is going to be no collateral damage whatsoever. The company hasn't been able to assure that there won't be any layoffs.
I think there's too many pauses in appropriate situations for this to be AI, but I'm not sure.
For starters. Meanwhile, both studios have wasted years of work and are now going to have to start entirely new projects from scratch, which, given the timing of everything going down, means that there's a good chance we see nothing at all from either studio on the PS5. We're more than halfway through this generation, and all signs point to the PS6 hitting shelves sometime in 2028.
Whoa,
it's highly unlikely that either studio will be able to launch anything.
Okay, that's actually huge. If a new Xbox comes out in 2026 and PlayStation doesn't do anything new until 2028, that's huge.
Before then, unless they end up reusing a lot of the work that they've done on their freshly canceled projects. And of course, all of this comes down to Sony's misguided, which is the most charitable description possible for it, push for live service games. Seriously, that whole initiative could not have gone any worse. Back in 2023, Sony proudly claimed that it intended to release 12 live service games in the next 3 years. And though Helldivers 2 certainly took the world by storm last year, it's the lone spark in an otherwise dire pool of failures and premature deaths. The Last of Us Online? Canceled. Yep. Bungie's Project Payback? Canceled. Firesprite's alleged...
Does anybody know anything about Project Payback? Is it anything to do with Marathon? Because they still have Marathon in their back pocket, right? Like they didn't cancel Marathon? Am I crazy there?
Twisted Metal reboot? Canceled. Insomniac's Spider-Man: The Great Web? Canceled. London Studios' live service game? Canceled. And the studio itself shuttered. That mystery Deviation Games project? Canceled. And the second-party partner studio shut down. Bluepoint's spinoff canceled. And Bend's open world game canceled.
There's still more. There's still more that they haven't put in this.
Then there's Concord, of course, which is the biggest first-party software failure in the history of the medium. Perhaps. Certainly on the PlayStation side of things, with the game having had just 2 meager weeks on the market, which saw little to no foot traffic before Sony decided to pull the plug and shut the whole studio down altogether. According to
I still don't understand why they wouldn't have made it free to play. Do not believe this is an AI voice. I'm sure he's been doing it for years, probably, but like still, like there's no like emotion in the voice whatsoever. Like there's pauses in correct areas, but it still seems robot. Am I crazy? I wondered why they didn't try to make this game free to play, but it was probably because they had so few people playing it that it like they couldn't even support paying for the servers. Right? Like I would assume that was probably it. But like I don't know as a whole. Also, my
journalist
internet
Jeff Grubb,
with this
Concord's
cold
embarrassing
is
failure was
just
exactly
disgusting.
what drove Sony to rethink yet more of its live service portfolio, which in turn led to the cancellation of Bluepoint and Ben's projects. On one hand, it's good that the company is responding to failures in the manner that you would want, because clearly live service projects are a huge risk, are being handed to studios whose talents lie elsewhere and tend to find it much more difficult to win over audiences. But then again, you have to wonder what the point of this live service push was to begin with. Sure, Sony claims it's not pulling out of this space just yet, in spite of all the hits and bruises that it's taken. Still, in the pipeline, for instance, are Horizon Online, Marathon, the
Horizon Online got canceled. So that's why I wanted to make this video, is because as of yesterday, the rumor is that Horizon got canceled, and I have a couple articles to show that support
unannounced
that.
Project Gummy Bears
So Marathon is like the one they have left.
and Fair Games. But how successful are those games going to be?
Marathon,
Public
I
opinion
think,
around
will
Fair
be.
Games has been rough ever since its reveal, with suggestions that it could be headed down the same path as Concord. Meanwhile, reports have claimed that Marathon's development is a mess.
I have
and
heard
that
that.
the game itself is in rough shape behind the scenes.
I heard even rumors that it was supposed to be an extraction shooter, and then at one point it got switched to a battle royale, and then back to an extraction shooter. So I don't even know if they fully know what this game is.
Clearly, things are far from peachy.
It's Marathon is not a make or break for Bungie, because if Marathon flops, they just go back into hard development on Destiny, right? They'll do Destiny 3, and then then that would be make or break.
Even for the in-development live service projects at PlayStation that have survived the axe. An overwhelmingly large amount of people will be lining up with their "told you so" placards outside of PlayStation HQ, and you can't help but agree. After all, there's been no shortage of examples of companies face-planting in their efforts to grab a slice of the live service pie, and many an acclaimed single-player studio has met with a disastrous fate due to a foolish switch to live service, and yet Sony, in all of its wisdom, took a look at all of that and told itself,
Here's what I find fascinating about the live service, and I've never heard anyone say this. At each of these live service games, I don't think really Call of Duty falls into it just because of how big Call of Duty is and how frequently it comes out. But like, let's say, for example, pick Helldivers or what's another one that's like just on PC? Like that's not like too big. I mean, we could use Marvel Rivals as an example, but these games have someone working behind the scenes in accounting, right? And this person knows that there is an amount of people that need. The Spider-Man co-op game did get canceled. The web game or whatever it's called, the universe web universe or whatever it's called. Yeah, that got canceled. I think that got canceled in like 2022 or something. But there is someone working an accountant that knows a specific Great Web. That's what it was. They have a specific number. This game needs to have 100,000 players daily in order for us to continue having this many people work on the game, put out frequent updates and things like that. There is a number out there that they know. And if the game drops and the numbers aren't anywhere near that, they can't support it. And they know that going into which is wild. Like, nobody talks about that, but it's 100% a thing. Like, it's something that would probably someone who's worked in like gaming, accounting, numbers, that kind of thing knows. Like, they know it. And then like, that's why there's like these gotcha games, because if you get 15 whales that are all going to spend $20,000 a month on your game, you need a lot less players to get to that number. It's like, look, okay, X-Defiant is a great example. So with their servers, with their staff, with everything like that, they had a number. They had a number of minimum players that they needed, which was an estimate. It's probably a range to keep the game's servers going and keep supporting the game. But that they didn't hit that number, so they had to shut the game. It's wild. It's a wild thing to think of.
We can do it better. For a while, many of us were willing to give the company the benefit of the doubt, because after the immense success it had seen with its big budget single-player offerings, maybe there was a chance that the company could indeed make huge strides in the live service space as well.
No. As soon as they announced that, everyone was like, dude, you make good single-player games. Just stick to that. Like 1 or 2 live service, let's give it a go. Throw in some Helldivers in there. Why the hell not? But like...
Reality has reared its ugly head once again, however, and here we are once more. Yet another major company has realized all too late that it had made a huge mistake. Sony's gradual but inevitable...
Also, I want to be clear, the reason why I haven't played Helldivers is because two reasons. I know it's like not possible to play at the highest level alone, which I don't like. And number 2, it would take way too much of my time.
U-turn from its live service ambitions means that the company is likely going to go back to the things that made it the juggernaut that it is. That being its beloved blockbuster single-player games. But it's an absolute shame that we effectively had to waste an entire console generation so Sony could try and fail to follow trends that were already starting to feel outdated when the company hopped on board. And that'll be about it for this one.
So they missed a couple things because this video came out 3 days ago and this happened literally yesterday. Horizon MMO, which was supposed to be like that Horizon game that was coming out, got canceled. It says 2024, but I've heard that it got canceled yesterday. God of War canceled. The Ben Studios game got canceled. I guess you could say Concord got canceled. Payback, which was a Destiny spin-off, got canceled. Probably to work on Destiny 3, I would assume. Just all of these games that were supposed to be live service games gone. Just absolutely gone. And I think for a good reason, right? Like think about it this way. And we've seen this happen before in a different situation, which I'll come back to in a second. But let's say how many games do they have on here? 12 or something like that? And they're canceling 2 or 3 of them a year. If you're putting out 3 live service games a year, actually, I think it would be 4, technically. They said they were going to do 12 in 3 years, so that would be 4 live service games a year. The way the live service games work is they take up your time. They want you to play for as long as possible. And if you release 4 of them in a year, you're at least condemning 2 of them. There's just not going to be enough time for people to play those games because they're busy on those other live service games. Or they're going to be better and take people out of those other live service games and then they're going to fail. You're dooming your games to begin with. So because of that, just releasing that many live service games doesn't work. Like 1 a year, okay, let's try that. Maybe it'll be a hit, maybe it won't. But like 4 a year on just like Sony, it ain't gonna work. It ain't gonna work. It's also been shown that like these live service games, like name a exclusive live service game that does well to either PlayStation or Microsoft. Like Halo fucked up. Halo didn't work when it was exclusive. Like I think the way of that for live service games is just gone. I can't think of one. Concord failed real hard. Helldivers is on multiple things. Most people who play live service games play one live service game and then pepper the rest of their time in with these like other like story-based games. Like a perfect example of this is how EA destroyed Titanfall, right? Titanfall was released, I think it was right beside, was it Battlefield 1? Titanfall 2 is what I'm talking about here. And they put all of the promotion into, I think it was a Battlefield game and none into Titanfall. And Titanfall was a better game than that other game, but because it came out at the same time as all of this other stuff, it came out at the same time as Call of Duty, as Battlefield, all these other things, it was doomed. If that game would have released in like March, different story. Yeah, because it was between COD and Battlefield. Okay, so I was right. And then they didn't promote it at all because I think, yeah. So we've seen shit like this before. This isn't the first time we've seen this. This isn't the first time we've seen this whatsoever.